Let's talk about it. The UFC has not been doing well. I know what y'all thinking, man, what you talking about? The UFC selling, we just saw Alex pay-per-view. Let's keep it real. Y'all remember back in the day when we used to look forward to having fight nights, when we used to look forward to the pay-per-views, when we knew all the people that fought on the cards and we were slowly introduced to new, exciting, up-and-coming fighters? Y'all remember that, right? I know y'all remember that. Them days are long gone. Now we get fight night cards with Marvin Vettori and Roman, whatever the hell his last name is, because we don't even want to watch this dude fight to begin with. I'm so sick and tired of these mediocre cards that the UFC is putting out. And it shows. I don't know if y'all have seen recently with the news, but the UFC ain't doing so well. The numbers ain't doing so well. Pay-per-view numbers ain't doing well. It's slowing down a little bit. I would love to hear what you guys think about how the sport has changed and if you still think it's exciting or if it was more exciting back in the day and why you think that is. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the problem is the UFC is oversaturating the market. That doesn't mean that the UFC hasn't done a really good job of promoting the sport. The sport is where it is today because the UFC has done everything that they've done leading up to this point. But I think the problem is that a lot of these cards are just not special anymore. I remember when we would watch a UFC pay-per-view, like we got introduced to up-and-coming prospects when John Jones would fight on the undercard and it's like, whoa, you watch this kid fight and it's like, damn, I'm gonna remember that dude. You know what I mean? But when we have these fight cards every weekend, it's like people just get forgettable. We see these guys so much, there's so many fights happening that we forget that we even seen people fight. We forget who a lot of these fighters even are. And the problem with that too is that we get so many people in MMA, in the UFC that do not belong there. The quality of the fights and the quality of the fighters is decreasing. That doesn't mean that we're not getting higher level fighters now than we've ever had before. But what I mean is the overall pool of fighters is the talent level is going lower and lower and lower. We see, no offense to these ladies that just fought on that card, I don't even know their names. That was one of the worst fights I've ever seen.
I mean, this is the fight I like to see outside of a club. Right here, this is what you're hoping for. Unloading on each other right off the bat.
No head movement, just standing there throwing the same punch over and over again. Like, I just don't understand where we are today with MMA and with the UFC. The fighters that they're selecting to get into the UFC, I don't even know where they're getting them from. I don't know if they're getting there because of their managers. I don't know if they're getting there because of the gyms that they train at. But a lot of these people do not need to be in the UFC. And I think the biggest thing of all of this, when we're talking about, you know, business standpoint, is just that I remember back in the day watching WEC, watching some of these older UFC cards, and I was excited. And I don't know, maybe some of y'all are newer fans and y'all don't really understand how dope that time frame was. 2010, 11, 12, man. It was exciting. There was something special about watching a UFC card. There was something special about watching a fight night. There's nothing special about it anymore. They happen so often that we forget that these fight cards are even happening. And then when we do watch it, we get this nonsense like Marvin Vettori and Roman fighting. If I'm gonna just go ahead and say this right now, I don't know if I want to make another video about this later, but I don't want to see Marvin Vettori fight ever again. I'm so sick of this dude. There's a lot of people I don't want to see fight, but for some reason, we keep seeing these guys over and over again, maybe because it's the country that they're claiming or the gym that they fight at. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure why some of these people are still in the UFC or get into the UFC to begin with, but it's diluting the product. 100% is diluting the product. I'm not really sure what the solution is outside of pulling back from how many cards they're having, pulling back from all of these events every weekend with a bunch of people that we have no idea who they are. I understand that the UFC is trying to find new stars and they're trying to find new people that are going to push the sport forward, but that's what the tier right below the UFC is for. That's what LFA is for, Cage Warriors, you know, all these other promotions. That's what those promotions are for. To find those talents, to find the outliers and the very skilled fighters and the very entertaining fighters and bring those people in. But when we're just pulling people from all these things just because you need somebody to fight, again, we're diluting the product. And maybe you guys can let me know if I'm tripping, let me know if I'm going crazy, but I feel like the UFC is just not as entertaining anymore. I used to be the person that would watch every event. I used to be the person that would watch every fight, know everybody's name, And it's like, there's so many horrible fighters and so many events that are just like, why are we even doing this? What is the purpose of this person being on this card? Is it simply because we're in this area? Is it simply because we're in Florida, we're in Washington, we're in, you know, Texas, that we just need to pull these random guys and throw them on a card? This is not a local promotion anymore. This is not LFA. You know what I mean? This is not like a regional show where we need these guys to sell tickets. The UFC is gonna sell tickets no matter where it goes. I don't know if they got money hungry. I'm not really sure what it is, or they have to like hold up to some numbers from ESPN. I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons, but the product is getting diluted, man. Like I said, it used to feel so special watching the UFC, WEC. It used to feel good watching those fights, watching those pay-per-views. They felt like an event, and now it just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way anymore. Either way, just wanted to share some thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with me. Peace.